And the magic machine tells me that I'm live. The magic machine tells me that I'm live, and I don't have a lot of time, but I'm trying to introduce new things, which is just going to be an assembly line for disaster. Okay, there's a thing called free Kriegspiel play that is kind of a a subset of the OSR old school community play. Essentially, think of it as extremely relaxed rules. You got to really trust the DM or referee to be really fair. And what it is, we're really trying to get away from rules and crunch and getting people from living on the mechanics of the character sheet and the living on the rules and living on the rolls of the dice and the mechanics of that, and really trying to free themselves into living in the moment, living in the description of the narrative of what's going on in the world, and trusting that, look, when we come to a moment where there's an unknown factor, an unknown situation, or unknown set of circumstances, in that event, we will go to the simple resolution of the die. And in most exemplars of what's known as free Kriegspiel rule sets, it just comes down to usually either 2d6 or a single d20 roll, usually an opposed roll between the player and a referee. Higher roll wins, that's it. If the player wins, whatever they were trying to achieve was a success. If the referee, wins, then the monster or the opposing combatant won the contest and a wound was struck. There's no complex set of rules usually for, character generation. Usually it's simply a state of, generally a consensus of adults can sustain, average sized humans can sustain X number of hits. If you fail a combat scenario, you've sustained a hit, X number of hits, and you're out of the game. What came to my attention and why I became attracted to this sort of gameplay is because we've been talking about these spell lists that I've been generating as a result of this MetaRPG process that I've been playing. And before I go too long, let me try and share this link to a new place. I've discovered a Discord server for this free Kriegspiel Renaissance Revolution community. I say hello to Mario Heat in the live chat. I say hello to Tim Frey in the live chat as well. Let me just grab this, go to YouTube. Let me just try and I'm going to share this link to the Discord server, which I'm sure that there's no one there. Let me mute this bad boy. Oh my God. Share that link. Share that link. Do. Copy. Da. Oh my God. And I'm like 90, I am like 48 going on 92 when it comes to the Discord. I'm like, is this where you go in the thing? Is this where you post the thing? Oh my God. This with the oh my God. I have no idea what the thing is this with the Discord. Oh my God. Holy crap. Ugh. This is a nightmare. Blogs and links. Here we go. Paste. That was brilliant. Okay, there you go. Great. Noob posts a link. Fantastic. What could go wrong? Everything. Listen, folks. Here we go. So I found these rule sets for the to call them that. One of the things is this. Oh, and for a historical note, um, one of the main guys behind the original Dungeons and Dragons, this guy Dave Arneson. The name Gary Gygax rings out through history with more notes and more fame, as it were. But early on, there was another guy, Dave Arneson, and he was in his famous Blackmore campaign, was a developer and a utilizer of kind of this early sort of play style of very limited reliance upon dice mechanics and very limited reliance upon rules and rule sets, and much more of a reliance upon this use of the referee and common sense rulings, not rules, as a kind of guideline. And as a historical note, Kriegspiel was this war game that had developed, to teach, I guess, Prussian, soldier generals and military people, military tactics, and had gotten so complex that literally no one wanted to run it or teach it. And so finally, someone said, "We're going to play it, without these rules, just freeing up these referees to just use their common sense and approach in doing this." Okay, there are much more people that have done a much more nuanced and better historical approach. So rather than painting you with my shoehorning of it, I'll just leave you with that research trail to follow up on your own. I've looked into some of the simple rule sets, and I actually last night just wrote down one by hand. And the reason I was looking at it was because we had been looking at this thing that I've been developing called the MetaRPG. And one of the things that we had developed in it was this notion of taking old movies from the past and reducing them, deconstructing them into workable tropes, breaking down them into these nuanced, understandable, crystallized moments of memory and time that could be deployed either in the virtual tabletop space as a spell to achieve effect, or in the real space of our metaphysical imagined reality, call it what you will, to achieve some sort of occult practice, if one is so woefully inclined. If you're new to this channel, and no one ever is, I have an open mind towards the what is generally referred to as the paranormal, though I do not believe necessarily that there is such a thing, or that ceremonial magic has any effect outside of the perchance fragile mind of the practitioner. But we have one brain, so why not scramble it, right? You know what I mean? Why not? Some might think that a rhetorical question. Some might think it answers itself. So, look, we had some fun last time talking about this. We've been talking about this meta RPG and this spell creation process, watching movies. Usually, talking about this meta RPG practice came out of this practice of it developed over time. Around the turn of the millennium, we say hello to the elephant in the room, completing our trifecta, our own little trio of the damned, if you will. I'm gonna forget that. Whatchamacallit. So it started off as a form of airsats time travel. Around the turn of the millennium, I discovered the nostalgia loops, the fact that everything seemed to be an endless repetition of that which was happening in the past. Um, then around 2018, just looking at the various woo woo practitioners that I was discussing on other YouTube channels, um, we started faking the funk, and we created a the CW Chanter Secret Space Program Whistleblower School, where we then started developing a form of time travel via only watching movies, only reading books, and only watching TV and playing video games from exactly 20 years ago, weaponizing the 20-year nostalgia loop in an attempt to turn back time and travel back in time. People lost their minds. People relapsed on it. Was crazy. We actually had some success. We started experimenting with time travel again, and we then started to try and turn it into a role-playing game with some limited success. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, part of this developed into deconstructing products on the nostalgia loop from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 40 years ago, and utilizing them to, come up with these spells that we would utilize in the meta RPG, which again could be played in the real space, in the virtual space. What is the real space? What is the virtual space? How far does the rabbit hole go? I don't know. Anyway, moving on, we then started having fun with this. Last time we talked about the meta RPG, we played a little game. And we played the little game, and I introduced it by telling you, look, doing this meta RPG, spellcraft creation, taking these movies and reducing them down to these little broke down, interesting bullet point statements, tropes, cliches, Rocky Horror Picture Show style shout outs to the screen, witty recordings, or romantic remembrances of particularly notable characters, etc. You end up generating the world's most amazing random tables for tabletop role-playing games. And I posited that you could actually end up with a playable RPG in and of itself. And, I said, in keeping with my general principles of time travel, that you should keep like with like. I said, if you have a movie from 2013 and you break it down like this, you take the cipher system, the Numenera play set from 2013, and you could roll on this table to generate the virtual events and stuff that you encounter, the people you encounter. You develop the stats, and you have your RPG that you're playing through. And so then you come up with some issues and some complexities, because it's these descriptions, it takes a lot of imagination. So the thing about FKR, free Kriegspiel style, gameplay and the rules, because the rules are reduced down to such small fidelity, and they're relied upon, and the style of play is encouraged to look at those roles so infrequently and only when absolutely necessary. It seemed ideal to me to look at, to apply, to attempt to use with that approach, because it would be, it's so flexible. And in solo play, because you are the DM, you have time to pause and think about how you get from entry number 11 to entry number 62. So I was thinking about this last night, and I said, well, let me try it out first myself before I try and spring it on anybody. Last time we did this, and I talked about the MetaRPG spells, we played a little game where we rolled on the tables randomly. I read you out the things, and I had you try to guess what movie it was I was talking about. Let me look at the thing. And I thought today what I would do is I would introduce to you the rule set that I was using, and I played through I rolled 2 random entries. So you'd see the 2 entries. I'd show you how I kind of played out the scenario. I only rolled the dice once for an opposed check to see if the thing succeeded or not. And so you kind of get an idea generally of what I was doing, how I was applying it, and what was going on. And then I think we'd probably still have time to roll another entry and see how the story continues. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense to you at all. It may or it may not. The rule set that I'm looking at and using is called, I think it's pronounced GIST, GIST, and this is the FKR edition. It's available in 2 flavors, and I think you can find it on IO. I think that's the name of the website. I'm all screwed up. Let me see what I got here. Let me see if I can find this here. I got the the reason that we're here. suck. No, I don't. Don't talk about yourself like that. You're awesome. It's got 2 different versions. I downloaded the booklet form, and this is the FKR one. This is the one I went off of. Let me do this. Boom. Here. Boom. Second time around. You won't know how to download. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Give shout outs to the people that do these things. Give all the shout outs to the people that do these things. Choose what to share. If you give me some things to share, I'd share them. Yo. So I'll just show you so you see how simple these rules are. Okay, so here we go. So this is the FKR edition. This version of GIST, I guess that's how you pronounce it, tries to be adherent to the general principle of free Kriegspiel revolution. Play words, not worlds, not rules. So it is. And we give a shout out to Roberto Biscalagi. There you go. And there's the website for the dude. All right, 2021. Character generation. Characters are described by 6 stats: might, agility, shape. So this, I think this is just, I'll just give it to you like this. Think of this as an analog. Might as an analog for strength. Agility is an analog for dexterity. Shape as an analog for constitution. Basically, in your hit, like kind of like how much damage you can take. Mind is kind of like intelligence / also like wisdom. And then knowledge is like a new stat that's basically like knowledge and like learning and experience. And then personality is like charisma of the mind. Like it's like emotional strength, personality, and standing. I like that. And so you roll 2d6 for each. And then basically it's just like almost like whatchamacallit, like Morkborg. It's like the numbers don't matter. It's just the bonus and then the level. And it's like basically it's like everything is going to, all the task resolutions is all going to come down to 2d6 plus the bonuses. So it's really all you care about is the abilities and the skills. And then it's really just you're almost only really trying to think of those things in your mind really loosely, because you just kind of, a lot of these things are just going to also like cancel each other out, because the pluses and the minuses are going to add up against each other in the same category so many times. A lot of these things are just kind of, I think, are just going to end up basically just kind of generally just keeping them in your mind. So it's like your scores are either going to be like -1, -2, abysmal, poor, mediocre, good, great, or superb. So it's like you have these stats, and so it's like when there's a task, whatever, and then you have the skills. Skills are a rough measure of your competence. Here are the things. So if you're a master at something, you add 4 to the roll, veteran 3, professional 2, competent 1. If you're just skilled at something, you add nothing to it. And if you're unskilled, you're a -1. You have an occupation when you start, and anything related to your occupation, you're skilled in. Also, when you start your character, you have 1 skill that you're a veteran in, 1 skill that you're a professional in, and 1 skill that you're competent in, right? And then if you do anything in the game that remarkably challenges any of your skills, and you do it like really good on like an 8+, so I guess that's 8+ whatever your current level is. If you roll that, if you beat that, you could gain an additional level at the referee's discretion, or your discretion, I guess, if you're playing solo. So that's that. Choose that. So you see, this is just like, it's one page of fucking rules. Here we go. Skill. There you go. You use the tools of the trade for what your occupation is. You just choose 2 items of starting gear. If you have a piece of gear that's useful to the role that you're doing, it grants a +1 bonus. Give your character name and age. Task resolution. Every action, including combat in the game, is a task. Most of them can be adjudicated from the context and how the player describes the character performing them. So there's a lot of these things, even if it would not necessarily be, even if it's combat, if you are, martial arts master Jones, and you're fighting a street thug number 3, like, like a Batman scenario, like, pow, pow, pow. It's not, if you're playing FKR style, Batman doesn't have to roll for all of the Riddler's punks, right? Batman moves through the Riddler's punks, bow, snap, crackle, pop style, to get to the Riddler, to hear the message of what the Riddler's riddle is. You know what I'm saying? Because he's Batman, you know what I mean? Like, thugs get thugged, you know what I mean? They just go through, you know what I mean? It's not until like he encounters, like Kang or whatever, that he's gonna have to do something. But then if the referee's like, no, he's like, there's 25 of them. You're not gonna, then all of a sudden, if there's a scenario where all of a sudden now Batman confronts this narrative element of Batman is now overpowered, Batman then wants to execute something to get through those guys to resolve that overpowered situation. Well, now you roll. So the content is how the player describes his character performing them. Tasks are described narratively, but sometimes a check will be needed when the outcome is not obvious or granted. In those cases, both the player and the referee roll 2d6 and add bonuses. The bonuses will be derived from the character's attributes, either bonuses in the negative, if he's abysmal, poor, or mediocre, or abysmal, poor, or something, or in the other direction, if he's got credits or they got credits, she got credits, or if they've got skills. A natural roll of a 2, that's at the negative end, that's critical failure, or 12 would be a critical success. Now, that's not defined in the rules. It would be on the context of the world that you're playing and what that would constitute, and it would be in the referee's discretion what the critical failure or success would be. In the bigger version of Gist, they have a more defined version of what critical failure or success is. I think it's like half their hit points or whatever. Every character has 5 hit points. If they fail any dangerous task as combat, then they lose 1 hit point. When hit points drop to 0, the character is dead. Effectiveness and speed of healing are adjudicated in the narrative context of the game. The referee will decide, okay, you guys rested in the safe house for 12 hours, but you had no major medical care, so you only healed 2 hit points, or you guys were in the safe house or whatever, and you got this, so you're back up to snuff. And you could adjust these things. Like with these things, like what I think I'm going to do after I do a couple of playthroughs of this, I might go back to and just do the regular D&D stats, so I get a better feel for that. And then, you might do the critical, the task resolution, something different. But the point is this, is that the rules get out of the way. You know what I mean? The rules get out of the way, and you just can roll on these things and see what happens. So I'll show you now the character that I generated using those simple rules. And then I knew what movie I had. I had a movie from 1997. Okay. And I started by rolling the stats, and I wanted to see how the character would kind of develop, and I kind of, filled them out, to kind of let them develop fit to purpose, to see how kind of they would develop, to see, kind of like let them take shape as the stats filled in, and, as I thought, they could function in the world that would be. And the world is going to develop. It's not as though I have this movie that I broke down into subsets, but that the movie remains and that, this person is then in this movie. No, they encountered, this little block of text. So they're in that little block of text, and that opened up one little narrative scene scenario, and then they move into the next one. So as we go through, this previous world will be cut up, and like William S. Burroughs predicted, will cut up the past and produce a new future. So what we have is, and also I want to recommend this, because the rule sets are so small, I was able to just write out the whole rule set. When you write something or read something, you make another copy in your brain. When you write something or read something, you make another copy in your brain. So I have a copy of the Gist FKR edition in my brain. I might make a copy of this and put it onto my Patreon so that you guys would have an extra special edition that is just me. So the guy ended up developing I'll tell you his name is Nick Vero. His age is 32. He's a paralegal, but he's a temp. But he's been a temp at this one firm for over 5 years. This can happen. You can be hired by a company, but via a temp agency. So you could be doing the exact same job as a person next to you, but being paid less money and with no benefits, because you're being paid, but you're doing the exact same job, but you're doing the job for the temp agency that's just filling the position. And you say, I'm going to quit and I'm going to come back and get hired for this job, but by the company. And the manager says, well, you don't do that, because we're not going to place an advertisement for this job. We're just going to hire someone else from the temp agency. So you might as well just stay here. And the person says, it's so unfair. And the boss looks at them and says, I know, it's a crappy situation. I feel for you. There's nothing I can do. That's what they say. Hey, all right, look at this. Aaron says, hello, I'm a highly transphobic, anti-LGBT, pro-Russian fascist here to listen and hopefully learn some new things from you and your commentary. Thanks. You're welcome. We have Bite-Sized Cobra Vince here with us as well. Welcome to the show. We have Evic Joms. Yo, man, what's up? Not much. We are attempting a free Kriegspiel playthrough of a movie that I've broken down from 1997. So as we play through this, you will try to guess the movie if you can. Not necessarily. Let's not assume the worst. Mario Heat. I'm only going to be here for a little bit more time. So our character is Nick Vero, paralegal temp. Here are his stats. He's got a good might. He had a good might roll, so it was +1. Do what you can, Evic Jams. Agility, he's mediocre, so we don't need to worry about agility. He's got nothing. Nothing adds to it. Nothing subtracts. Likewise for shape, mediocre roll, no change. Mind is poor. This would be his general intelligence, his state of mind, also his wisdom. He's -1 there. Also his personality, how people generally perceive him, and his general kind of demeanor is also his external demeanor, and his standing in society is also -1. But his knowledge is great at +2. So I see him kind of almost like, I hate to say this, but kind of like your stereotypical nerd or incel. Right? Highly knowledgeable, highly, got a lot of data and information, but maybe because of poor social skills or poor socialization, is just not, in command of it or able to communicate it well. And therefore people don't perceive him as having that. And also maybe because he's got ADD, or something else, or maybe because of trauma or something, just his mind is affected somehow, that it's just hard for him to work with it and get it out. So he's got this great base of knowledge, but he's got these other deficits in his mental capacities that kind of cancel that out. But he's strong for what it's worth. He's got a little bit of an edge there. As far as his skills were, remember, in skills we can pick one skill at veteran status, one skill at professional status, and one skill at competency, meaning that he's going to get a +3 benefit to some things, a 2 at other things, and 1 at just +1. So for his skills, I chose document research, retrieval, and recovery for him to be a veteran at, because he's a paralegal. So this is good, and he's very knowledgeable. So it's like he's a bookish, behind-the-scenes guy. For what he's professional at, I thought to take advantage of his strength and also this kind of nerdy persona that's developing, and I gave him medieval swordplay. Medieval swordplay. Okay, so he's kind of like, into the, a Society for Anachronistic Recreation or whatever. And then as far as what he's competent at, I gave him presentation delivery / public speaking. And this was to offset this, poor personality. So even though it's not in his wheelhouse, I figured that because he's this paralegal that had to do this document research, retrieval, and recovery thing, that this is his training, what he's trained at, that even though it's not what he's good at, even though that's not what he's good at or what he's necessarily, cut out for, it's just what he has to do. So he's got that competency, so he's got that +1 bonus there, even though it's offset naturally by the fact that he's a human schlub and no one wants to really look at or talk to him. Anyway, for his special equipment, he gets 2 pieces of equipment. He has a sword and a shield. Because he's part of the Society for Anachronistic, Society Recreation. He's this, Renaissance Times guy. He's got to go to work, but rehearsal is after the show. I put in equipment, sword and shield, and I put practice is after work. Day 1. It was fated that this day in 1997 was to be Bring Your Sword and Shield to Work Day for not so young Nick Vero, paralegal, and some might say loser in the big city. Roll 1. 1, 1, 1. So this is entry 111 from our movie from 1997. So this would be a clue as to what movie we're looking at. Free wheel suicide ride to the devil's chagrin. Free will suicide ride to the devil's chagrin, which I interpreted, I had to break it down because you get this and it's like, well, how am I going to turn that into an entry for this guy to be working with and to do something with? We say hello to the political gamer. And I interpreted it as killing yourself to spite the devil. Killing yourself to spite the devil. And I further interpreted that as the nerd does not get his libido satisfied, though ostensibly these tools, the sword and the shield, are to impress the ladies. Right? The sword and the shield, being the knight in shining armor, this would be to impress ladies, but everybody knows nothing quite does not impress women in the workplace quite like bringing a sword and shield to work, right? So what I then turned this into a counter, and I said, perchance an encounter with a young lady who sees Nick's armaments is seen by a friend, a Charles DeMar-esque character who laments poor Nick and the fate of his dick. Call him Curtis D. Armstrong. Charles DeMar was the friend of remember Better Off Dead. Lane's friend who was like, "Do you know what the street value of this mountain is?" The burnout booger from Revenge of the Nerds. He was played by Curtis Armstrong, so I just called Charles DeMar, turned him into Curtis Armstrong. So he's kind of like his bones, his unshackled inner voice. You know what I mean? So he's like, are you serious? Like, you let her see you with the sword and shield? Like, you brought that to work? Are you serious? Like, oh man. And he's lambasting, Nick for being caught in this situation. And that's killing yourself to spite the devil. Free will suicide ride to the devil's chagrin. Nick chose to bring the sword and shield to work, probably knowing very well that that Curtis would upon seeing this would be would lambast him for this show of ultra nerddom. So we make our next roll. We didn't need to do any rolls there. We just had an encounter. We just saw what happened. But you see that how the game is played, and we see already that we have something happening. We see new characters come in, we see interactions with the world, and we see how the game is played. Okay, and we still have time. So I made another roll, and I rolled a 62, which led me to this entry: A Dance with the Devil live on stage. Now you see the situation we run into. We have a guy at work, and we have these kind of these phrases thrown out: the devil's free will suicide ride to the devil's chagrin, a dance with the devil live on stage, and we have a guy, and he's kind of in an office position. You know what I mean? It's like, well, how are we going to get from here to there? How are we going to do with this stuff? We're going to work with this. It's from 1997. It is not the game, but good guess. Pragmagic actually guessed our last movie right off the bat. So good guess. No, it's not that. But here's what I got: A Dance with the Devil live on stage. So when we're doing this, look, obviously this movie, when I wrote A Dance with the Devil live on stage, I was watching a scene with actual players, actual actors and actresses. Maybe the devil refers to an actual person, an actual character in the actual movie. Do I change the narrative then to incorporate that person, that character? What do I do? Well, I wrote, we just ID'd the buddy from this previous scenario as being the devil, like in the devil's chagrin. He was the chagrined devil on the guy's shoulder. So we just ID'd that buddy as the devil, and our protagonist as the public speaker, right? He's got the skill of public speaking. So they can be rushing on the job to give a presentation first thing in the morning before some sort of board. And I also wrote comedy movie vibes of brewing as Nick struggles to balance sword, shield, and the documents for today's presentation as they're rushing down the hall to give the big speech. And I wrote, but how does it go? Now, some might say, oh, well, if you're doing this, true FKR, free Kriegspiel rules, Renaissance, whatever, you wouldn't just roll for that. You would give the presentation. Nope, not the game. And not Nick of Time with Johnny Depp, which I believe was 1995. But I'm not sure. Some might say you have to do the presentation. Fuck that shit. Come on now. What I wrote was, these men cannot establish, meaning Nick and his friend Curtis can't establish whether or not they're successful at giving this presentation, because this presentation by definition is a bullshit job. If you're not familiar with the concept of a bullshit, I forget the guy's name. He passed away recently, but this guy wrote a book all about modern jobs and this concept of bullshit jobs. There's all sorts of people in today's modern society that know that the jobs that they do, like they're just sitting there knowing it's not nothing to lose. No, it's not nothing to lose. They know that they're kind of in this precarious position because they know that their job is meaningless, that they don't really do anything. David Graeber, thank you, Oswald Spengler. He wrote a book called Bullshit Jobs. And it's all about there are these people that basically can't even assess whether or not they're fucking around on the job because they don't know what they really don't even know what their job. Like if you ask them at a party and you'll say to them like that sounds like what exactly is that, and they'll tell you I don't know. Like they'll like the stereotypical scene of two guys at a party like doing cocaine. Like I don't even know what I fucking do. I don't even know what do you know what you fucking do? What do you do? I don't know what I fucking do. You know what you fucking do? I'm chief alignment specialist in charge of sales to the Mideast division. I've never even been to the Mideast. Mideast of what? Mideast of America? What is that? What? I don't even know what I do. Every day I'm nervous that someone's going to come in and fire me. I don't even know who I'm looking out for. Am I the boss? There are literally people that have that job. So when I did this, I was like, they have to roll for this because no one can assess whether or not they actually succeeded or not. It's not until, especially with this guy, Nick, who's got these personality defects, he's got the knowledge, he can deliver the information, but it's not until he gets the feedback response where they go, okay. And even the audience, the board, they don't know. They don't know what the hell they're doing. So it wasn't until that I rolled for Nick a 10, and here's how it goes. Look, so when I'm trying to figure out what the bonuses and subtractions are, I did the calculation like this. And I did this calculation as quick as possible. Office Space? No, it's not Office Space. I'll give you a hint. It's a supernatural thriller. He's got this knowledge of +2. So that's a bonus of +2. But his mind is kind of shaky and poor because he's got like kind of ADD, I think. So that's a -1. He's also got this personality problem of people don't really like think that he's that attractive or has got like good, attractive personality. So that's a -1. So that basically cancels each other out. So you don't even really need to think about that. So I know when I'm dealing with him talking before a crowd, the mental stuff just all cancels each other out. So all I'm dealing with is the +1 for public speaking. Because everything else just cancels itself out. So it's just +1 for public speaking. That's it. So on a 2d6, he rolled a 10 and the ref rolled a 6. And me as the ref rolled a 6. So he did good. He won. That was it. So that was it. And so I wrote, they did it. The board accepts the fact that these two individuals did the presentation successfully and there's no cause for alarm. That's it. Do you understand? Yo, Pride Magic. It's Devil's Advocate. You just got it. You fucking son of a bitch. You're not allowed to. So we'll roll the next one and we'll see what happens next. You want us to roll the next one and see what happens next? So I've got, for Devil's Advocate, I have 113 entries. So I've got a app. Where's my phone? Yep. Where's the app? Where am I? Okay, here we go. So I've got this dice rolling app that'll let you do dice of any size. So I could do a 113. Supernatural thriller. Devil's Advocate. Oh my god. And every time I use one of these spells, I cross it off. So if I want to do that one again, any of these ones again, I'll have to watch the movie again. And when you watch the movie, you might record them differently. So I might write down the movie, watch the movie, and I see something and I write it down as radical leave of courtroom realities. But I might watch the movie another time and not write that one down at all, or write it down as part of another thing. So that's what makes it so interesting. It's literally taking that concept of Vancian magic and making it real. There is no spell book to always go back and consult. The spells are literally burnt when you use them, and you, as the player, have to mint them again. And if you come up with a particularly awesome one, like eating ass on the dance floor from The Devil's Advocate, you use it and it flubs, you got to watch that movie again to get it and to record it. Or you think, oh man, I wanted to do that one, but I want to do it better. I want to get the person and do it like that or something. So 14 is, where's 14? Sweet Blue Metallic Ride. That's a vehicle. Yo. Did someone just give these guys a car? Yo, Pride Magic. I think the fact of the matter is the name has been named The Devil's Advocate from out of nowhere. It's 4:56. I got to go. We'll let this card will decide. We have Sweet Blue Metallic Ride is on the chopping block, and I know exactly what that is. That's the car. Yeah, you were speaking of the central plot device with a major case that goes under the radar due to all the heavy devil spit. I wasn't even talking about. You were speaking of the central plot device with the major case that goes under the radar due to all the heavy devil spit. Was I? I may have been doing it subconsciously. Oh man. The presentation was the major legal case. I didn't. Oh wow. Oh my god. I didn't. Oh shit. Yo. So, is he gonna come out? Check this out. Sweet. At least that's how I heard it. That's how you heard it. Yo, I wasn't even thinking that though. But that's how you heard it. But that's what the movie was. But now here's what's so crazy. So now, but this is what's so crazy. Sweet Blue Metallic Ride. It's a sweet car. And they're in a position because now we know what it is. And I was thinking to myself before I got the card out, we'll see what it is. This card could be them being offered temptation. by the one and only person who we now know is present on the papers and in the details. What card from the 2003 on the Nostalgia Loop Tarot do we have? The Queen of Swords. So not the big man, but a woman of intelligence comes out. Sweet blue metallic ride. Not a car, but a woman. Holy shit. Would you look at that? Curtis D. Armstrong says. Nick Vero looks at her and says, is that a woman or is that a sports car? And Curtis says, I don't know. All I know is that guys like you and me, I don't think we're going to get a chance to ride her. Uh-oh. She's coming this way. What do you think she wants with us? I don't know, but we know the Queen of Swords is of the suit of intelligence and thinking. Pragmagic, we may be at the movies, but our movie may take us in another direction. She certainly may be of that type, and she certainly may be a fork off of that trope, but she may be a move in another direction entirely. The devil is often in the details, but we know that the devil did not make a direct appearance this time. Sweet blue metallic ride, synonymous with ancient Egypt, is the symbol of the scarab beetle, known also as the dung beetle. Eternal symbol of life because it returns to the earth and the offal of death. Full circle. I'll be seeing you. Hope y'all see me again real soon. Check it out. Check out the FKR. A lot of resources out there. A lot of totally free resources out there. Awesome. We'll be getting more into it, trying to figure out how to do more of this stuff, this play style. I think it'll be cool. Also, we'll be able to play together, folks. We'll be able to do some Let's Plays together, okay? Check it out. Check it out. We'll be doing y'all want to be playing some games with me? I think it'll be time to play some games together, okay? I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did that. Somebody's CW Chanter. Make of that what you will, because you will.